video, we're looking at the main two solos from November Rain. Now this is part 2 of 3 on this song. In the previous video, we looked at the chords and the structure, and then the next one, we're going to be looking at the crazy lead parts in the outro, but we're looking at these solos for now. So I'm going to start by discussing how to get the sound, and then I'm going to show you a slow playthrough with tab of each of the 2 solos, so you can really get down what notes you're meant to be playing. And then I'm just going to talk through them, not exactly note by note, but I'm just going to highlight some of the intricacies and challenges that you might come across when you're learning them. So it's currently November, it's been raining all morning, the stars have aligned, it's time to learn these solos, so let's dive in. So regarding the sound, you want to aim for a thick, fat, distorted sound with plenty of sustain, so humbuckers are going to be great for this. I'm using an SG because I don't have a Les Paul. Now amp-wise, unless you've got access to a big Marshall that you can crank really loudly, which is normally not the case for home practice, it's probably best to have some sort of Marshall in a box type pedal. I'm using the Friedman Smallbox, which to be honest is my absolute favourite pedal, so I've got some distortion coming from that, as well as a little bit more boost and gain and sort of mid-push from a tube screamer, so that's my distortion. You'll also want some ambience to stop it sounding dry and make it sound a bit more epic, so I've got a big hall reverb on. You could maybe try delay as well, I didn't feel like it really needed delay in this circumstance. And I've also got a noise gate on, but that's mainly just to stop the amp buzzing while I'm talking, so you might not need the noise gate either. Speaking of the amp, I'm just using like a digital Fender amp on clean, so completely the wrong sort of thing that you would want for this kind of sound, but I'm just using it as a clean pedal platform, and I'm finding that the combination of the guitar and the pedals is giving me the sound that I want. So hopefully that helps you get started in terms of the gear, and now let's get into the solos, starting with that slow playthrough of solo 1. So we're in E flat tuning, as is the case with most Guns N' Roses stuff, and we're playing in the key of C major, so we're going to be using the C major scale. Now guitar players tend to be a little bit more familiar with A minor, so you can think about A minor if you prefer. It's just the same notes as it's the relative minor, so if you take that first scale that falls between the 5th and 8th frets, very familiar. In A minor we'd call this pattern 1, but in C major we'd actually call it pattern 5. So we're starting with these big bends on the 8th fret on the B string. Now the bending symbolism on the tab makes it look really complicated, but it's actually really easy if you know the song well. You can just follow your ear as to when to bend the strings and when to release the bends. And he's also doing a popular little technique of his where he'll grab the top string with the little finger. So you get a little bit of harmonizing going on there. And another thing I really like about this part is he resolves to the 6th fret rather than the 5th fret. So he's incorporating a little bit of the natural minor rather than just sticking to pentatonic. Slash is always really good at incorporating the different minor scales, so you'll get a bit of natural minor, a bit of harmonic minor, occasionally a little bit of Dorian as well, not always sticking to pentatonics. And he does this because it highlights the chord tones of the chords he's playing over. So for example here, if we take the 6th fret, we take the bend, and we take the little finger note on the top string, these actually outline the chord tones of an F. So he's got a really great ear for hitting the target notes, and that's something that you can incorporate into your own playing as well. Now he does eventually resolve to the 5th fret, and this is also really nice because that's the E note that you get in the C chord, which he's playing over at that point as well. So he's always hitting chord tones here. Then after a few more bends, we get a transition up into pattern 1 of C major. So In A minor, that'll feel like going from pattern 1 to pattern 2, but C major, it's pattern 5 to pattern 1. And from there, he's actually using quite a bluesy idea here, where you play one note and then slide to the same note on a different string. That gets us into pattern 2 of C major now, and we have this lick. Now for this point, watching him play it live, he actually plays it with fingers 2 and 3, so... But for some reason I find that quite awkward, and I found when I was practicing sometimes I was pulling the string off the side of the fretboard, which wasn't great. So I switched to fingers 1 and 2, which feels quite comfortable for me, but use whatever works best for you. Then we have some more pattern 2 stuff. Then a big jump up to a semitone bend on the 19th fret. So he's pitching it so it sounds like the 20th fret. Now his pitching is so good that it probably wouldn't really make a difference if you just played the 20th fret. I don't think it's worth being too strict on what's going to be a semitone bend and what's going to be just playing the next fret. And same when it comes to whether you pick or do hammer-ons and pull-offs. So long as it sounds good and feels good to play, just go with what feels right to you. I quite like the feel of doing the semitone bend, so I'm going to semitone bend the 19th fret. Then we've got this descendant section, just following down the scale. And interesting to note that most of the time this is just going pick, pick, slide, so... But the first one has 3 picks, so we're going pick, 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 pull off, pick, pick, slide, pick, pick, slide, pick, pick, slide. Again, a little bit complicated when you look at the tab, but if you just know the song well enough, you don't really have to think that hard about it. And that gets us back down into this C major pattern 2 territory. Once we're back in pattern 2, we have this nice flourish style run. Now there's nothing too difficult in there, there's nothing really technical, it's just a simple scale and a few simple techniques. I think the reason people struggle with these parts is because they don't really know the part itself well enough. So my advice would be to make sure you can sing the part to yourself without even playing guitar, and that'll really get it in your head enough so you can just follow the sound rather than thinking too hard about the notes. Particularly the parts where it dips into the next subdivision of rhythm, so it kind of sounds like it's speeding up in certain places where the hammer-ons and pull-offs occur. And another thing to look out for is where he's playing thirds rather than just scale steps. So here, for example, we're stepping back up a third rather than just one scale step, and that just makes it a little bit more melodic. Now here, we've got some rolls as well, so you've got to get the rolling technique down, and that also means we're playing in thirds rather than scale steps. So again, just got to get the melodic contour right. And to round off, we've got these repetitive parts. Now the main thing to get used to here is after you've slid down to the 9th fret, you have to do a little jolt to get to the target note, which is the 13th fret on the B string. You have to make sure that you're not leaving any gap in between, and actually the final time you've got to get all the way up to the 15th fret and do a bend, so might take a little bit of work to get that movement sleek enough, but it's definitely possible. Then when you get there, we're doing another kind of bend and grab style lick and resolving to the C note on the 13th fret of the B. But then to match the chord change, you have to do a little bend up a tone with the first finger. Then it'll follow the movement of the chords and fade out nicely. So that's all of the first solo. Now here is the second solo, slowly with the tab. So we get into the second solo by climbing the C major scale. So we're starting from D, so we're going D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Now we're into an octave higher of that same C major pattern 5 position. So we're just going to be playing around with those notes. So we're starting up here on the 18th fret. Got another bend and grab. Then just bend up again. Grab the top string, and then again here you can either do a semitone bend on the 17th fret and then release the bend, or you can just play 18, 17. Following that, same thing, you can either do a semitone bend on the 19th fret or just hit the 20th fret. Depends if you like those semitone bends. I quite like them, so I would play on live footage. It looks like he is doing the semitone bends most of the time. As I say, they do feel quite good to do, so throw them in if you like. Now for this next section, we're dropping down into pattern 4, and here you do have to do the semitone bend, and we're going to pre-bend it. So we've got this little thing. So we're starting with a pre-bend semitone bend, releasing it, and then going back up. So it's really easy to overdo a semitone bend, so just be quite subtle with how far you're bending the string. Might be a little bit easier when you can hear the chord to pitch against as well. Then we've got another little flourish run. Then we drop down into pattern 3. Another little repetitive bit. And then one more run. And I'm just going to reinforce what I said before. There's nothing difficult in there at all. If you can play a simple scale and you can do hammer-ons and pull-offs, you can absolutely play parts like that. It's just knowing them well enough. So as I say, really make sure that you've got the part in your head and you'll be able to do it without any problem. The second solo is only half the length of the first solo, so just 8 bars to learn there. Nothing too difficult, just might take a little bit of time to refine, but that gives you both of the main solos. So there's the 2 main solos. I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun playing those. In the next lesson, which is linked on screen now, we're going to tackle the lead parts in the outro, which to be honest, I've been a little bit scared of doing ever since I started playing guitar, but I've finally done it and it's a lot of fun. So we're going to get into all of that. There's also the option to subscribe if you want some more guitar content, but hopefully I'll see you in that next video.